everything. And then, hey, hi, hey. Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I'm your host, DBJ, and today is Future Friday. And on Future Friday, we talk all things tabletop role playing game related to modern day all the way into the far future. And but for those who don't know, the normal process on this channel is that we take a subject and we talk about it all week long. Unfortunately, real life has taken an impact. So instead of all week long, we're doing a WTF. Yes, it stands for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we are going to end our series talking about Dune. Now, the Dune movie has been released. We've talked about it before when it was announced they were going to do the Dune movie. But today we're going to talk about a specificity of the Dune movie, and that is spice melange, or rather, spice melange in the concept of a commodity in our science fiction and far future role playing. Now, of course, while we want to focus on modern day all the way into the far future, we do want to talk about the fact that we can take all of those concepts, and if you are a fantasy gamer, not just primarily but exclusively, it doesn't mean you can't learn anything from it. It just means, oh yeah, okay, I get it, yeah. And the concept of the spice melange, and hello there, LBL, hello there, legally. Always glad to have you here, legal. Uh, thank you so much. Anyway, the idea of like, what is spice melange? And I don't mean this conceptually, like within the world of Dune. We know within the world of Dune, like spice melange is this. It is a it's cast off effluvia from giant worms, essentially, right? Um, it is a spice blow that can only be found in one location, and it is used to expand the mind, the horizons. In essence, it gives humanity psychic powers, and there's a cost to those psychic powers: addiction, um, mental afflictions, and mutation, all the way to the fact that it manipulates the body as well and reshapes it. Some would say that it reshapes the mind and body because of looking into the fourth and fifth and sixth dimensions of reality and looking into the far future, and that kind of thing. There's a cost to expanding the mind to new horizons. You don't want to come back home, and you don't want to be air quotes blind any longer by having your senses expanded. And of course, it allows these guild navigators to navigate through time and space, basically wormholes and some other kind of warp transportation kind of thing to get from place to place. And that is how their guild maintains power. But what can we learn from this to steal for our own tabletop role playing games, science fiction or not? And I think it is, as the thumbnail has suggested, a unique or rare commodity in our world. And so I've often brought up the idea of um, time, energy, and resources, TER. I'm not. I think there's probably something else you can add to that. Is probably S for status, maybe. Um, and that is, there's no free lunch anywhere, right? And whatever we want has a cost to it, whether it's time to get the thing, whether it's expending a ton of energy to get it, and or expending resources, money, values. And I think there's probably a fourth one involved in that. And I would say it probably has to do with status. Um, you have to spend your, and I suppose this would have to be, yeah, I hear you, Lurk. Yeah, saying that none of us wants to be blind anymore, and that's more of an awakening more than a visual thing, right? Like, once you know how a thing works, you see behind the curtain. um it's the worker, restaurant worker, that knows how food is prepared, or it's the someone like me that knows how sausage is created, and you go, ooh, I don't, ooh. Do I really want to go back to the old ways or something? I don't know. Right? And I think we could use something like use those ideas in our world. Let's take something fantastical, okay, and then we'll go back into science fiction. Something fantastical would be maybe there are special mage stone gems or elder stone gems that contain lots of eldritch power over time, and you have to mine for them, and maybe they need to be carved by an expert hand, chiseled away out of the earth and then mined, and then a jeweler, an expert has to, um, make put specific facets into them. Maybe it requires a ritual to extract or open or harness the power that's inside of them, and so on. And each of these steps means that it becomes that much more rare rather than just reaching down into the ground, picking up a stone and going, "Oh, great, I'm a godling." Cool, right? And the same thing goes for science fiction. We A lot of times you see this in science fiction when it comes to starship travel. Uh, every time you read or see a in our pop culture when it comes to starships and spaceships and things, what happens? You have an engine, and that engine has to be fueled. Where's that fuel come from? Is it is the fuel beryllium or unobtainium or something? Is it something that can be gathered through from the corona of stars, or it requires a long time to gather it? Maybe engines that need to be restarted, but it takes minutes, days, hours to do so. uh, is this material, does it require traveling far distances just to fuel back up to go out to the outer reaches of space? And we see this in tons of science fiction, especially those that leave um, Earth's gravity well. Where's the fuel come from? How much does it cost? What does it cost in labor? What does it cost in credits or United Nations dollars or uh, whatever the new monetary value would be in this far future realm? And also, what does it cost in terms of expending your social capital? For Just like in Dune, to get the spice, you've got to wheel and deal to get it, and you look like the big boss in town when you can expend a lot of the spice for your own ends, and then everybody else gets jealous of your access to the spice, and then our story starts with the Harkonnen or the Harkonnen kicked off the planet, and then House Atreides or Atreides is given, I'll say, not ownership, but is assigned um, dominion over Arrakis, to ensure that spice is mined off of it. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like, yay, I'm in charge of the most valuable commodity in the universe, and the emperor expects me to fill ships, get spacecrafts filled with the stuff so we can get it off the planet. And here I am, Duke Leto walking around the planet like, oh, so they left me all the scraps and none of the mechanisms work, and the people here hate me. Hate me meaning like hate the emperor and all his machinations trying to get the stuff off the planet because the people just want to be left alone. And so, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I think finding a commodity in the world, whether you, science fiction tends to delve a lot into psychic powers. Maybe there's something that opens up psychic awareness. Maybe there's um, a crystalline thing or a gemstone or something that opens one's mind. And those who are skilled, not only do you have to learn the skills of psychic awareness and power, but maybe there's stones, crystalline stones that allow one to enhance those abilities, but only a little bit. Um, there may be something. Let's go with uh, a story of first contact with aliens. That's another vector of rarity. What relationship do you have with the aliens? Can you communicate with them? Such as the movie Arrival. Who's the first to crack the code in communication? Because that country or nation state might be the first to get the great commodity. Maybe the aliens are. uh, have no idea about the differences in factions around the world, and if you just ask them nicely, they will hand you something. There was a one season show that lasted for a very short amount of time called wow, Debris, and out in the farthest reaches of our solar system, an alien spacecraft broke apart and it was damaged. And like 3 years later, that material impacted, uh, came through Earth's atmosphere and landed in various places around the world. And that became a commodity. Which nation, which faction will get these pieces of debris, the various pieces of debris having unique features to them, a la X Files or Warehouse House 13, et cetera, et cetera. Eureka, a number of television shows were use that concept, and kind of cool, kind of cool. Um, I think something else too is we can create artificial scarcity as well. Maybe there is an emperor or a government or a criminal organization or something. Hey, Cam, that that criminal organization or powerful entity, maybe an AI system or something, i- can allow that commodity to get out, but doesn't want to. You got to work for it. Maybe you are a consumer, but in order to move up a level and become a citizen of the state, you need to serve in the military for at least 2 years, or you need to pass tests, or you need to be analyzed. And if maybe you're the individual in your family that has to go through the 1,001 tests by the AI system to have access to this other thing. And so those commodities might be what moves and shakes the world around your world, whether they are deals with black marketeers, whether it's above board and you have politicians, military services or mercenaries, all being hired to acquire this commodity, or at least find it. I think in our world, there might come a day when we're able to travel out to the asteroid belt, and much like eclipse phase, you've got belters. And what happened there, you've got individuals that are like, hey, if we go out to these asteroids and we find, like, I don't know, a an asteroid that's the size of a small city, that's all platinum or gold or titanium and a ton of other mineral sources, and we can tow it and bring it back to Earth or something. Yeah, that's gonna really change the value of a thing, even if you can't get the thing in the first place, right? The knowledge of a thing sometimes changes the value of it simply by observing its existence. And wow, what would happen if some rich multi-billionaire, maybe at the time they might be a trillionaire, um young upstarter is like, I'm going to send a starship out to an asteroid and tow it back to Earth. Mm-mm-mm. uh Lurker says, listen to an AP, okay, podcast, actual play podcast, where all components are ground to dust, and so magic items or rituals, um etc., take a certain amount of dust to make an item. Really made magic have a universal cost. Yes, if there's something like with magic items or arcane effects or rituals where everything has to be, not only do you have to acquire the thing, now you have to take that thing and take it through a process, which means not only is it rare to find, maybe there are skilled individuals that, hey, have to, like you say, have to ground it down to dust. I mean, like in the Dune movie, the spice was in the actual air, but you see these giant machines trying to harvest it off the surface of out of the sand and whatnot. And probably because finding enough spice to fill one of those little snuff containers, it probably takes hours to days to weeks out of those giant spice harvesting machines to get all the sand out and get all the other materials out. And then I'm sure there are specified ways mechanisms or individuals that are able to process it so that it's usable for, somebody rich and powerful to take that spice and snuff it up their nose like cocaine. Believe you me, I'm sure the writer during the time when psychedelic drugs was a big thing during the 60s and 60s, early 70s, and I'm sure it wasn't lost on him that, like, the fact that spice melange goes from something that you put in your pocket and snort, essentially, or maybe it looks like you can snort it. They don't actually show you them doing it, all the way to breathing it in and warping your mind and body and stuff. I'm pretty sure he was like, yeah. Couldn't have hit it more on the nose than if I guess relating it to like meth or heroin, or in a modern context like bath salts or things like that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But it's cool though. I've even seen in there was a game and an actual play, and I believe this was an OSR version where the the ability to cast magic, you had to ingest something similar to the lethality of today's version of mercury. So it was a poison, but it also gave you power. And that's the two combined together might be a dangerous thing as well. I We've seen, and this relates a lot to in science fiction, to warp travel, traveling between the stars. C.S. Friedman, a sci-fi writer, she once wrote about needing to use people with psychological issues, severe psychological issues, were the only ones who could pilot ships between these warp stations or something. And in order to do it, in order to think in the fourth and fifth and sixth dimensional mathematics, the pilots themselves had to have like schizophrenia and, multiple personality disorder and things like that, which in a strange way is actually kind of a cool idea for people who feel or have been diagnosed that they're on a severe part of a spectrum or something. So yeah. Oh no. Lurker's like, Spice Melange sounds like a bad burlesque dancer. A bad one? Yeah. Yeah. Discordant noise and makeup all in the wrong places and an outfit that doesn't quite fit. Yeah, and a bunch of bored people sitting around while you're sitting there throwing money on the stage. Sure, why not? Strange um vision I have in my head that I might not be able to get rid of, but yeah. um Something else too is the fact that, like, especially when it comes to player characters, sometimes we can be a little bit um maybe we give our players sometimes a little bit too many kids gloves, and having something rare. uh yeah. Oh, ooh, Cam's like, speaking of bath salts, there could be an undeath inducing mineral. Yeah, yes, in the sense of, what would you call this? Sorry, two things come to mind. Mummification is one process that comes to mind, and the other one is the Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones has necromancy done through pseudoscience or alchemy or something like that. Spice melange rogue. Oh, or do you mean spice melange rouge? Yeah, yeah. Ce soir. Don't make me put on my outfit. It's sitting in the back. That would be a whole nother live stream. I'd have to open up my OnlyFans account, but I don't know. I might get a lot of followers. You guys don't know. Don't say anything. You never know. You never know. Hmm. I might be put in the comedy section, but whatever. Anyway, getting back to science fiction and commodities, um, having and a lot of people in the gaming community, tabletop gaming community, love survivalistic style games. I would say Call of Cthulhu falls into this category, although the commodity that they have in Call of Cthulhu is sanity, and you're running around with limited quantities of sanity to allow you to keep progressing. But in survivalist games, there's a lot of tracking of supplies, a tracking of needed resources, and so another vector. Oh no 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 no! What are you guys doing? Mm-mm-mm, mm-mm-mm. Talk about Nicole Kidman. Now I'm imagining Nicole Kidman in a skin tight suit in the desert with a wire up her nose. All right, Cam. That's actually not. Hmm. Well, Mad Max Fury Road. We did have Charlize Theron, although she didn't have a wire up her nose, but she was kick ass in the desert. Lurk's like, I'll stop derailing now. Yeah, I hear you, and I hear you out there. Now, um, because we tend to try to treat our player characters with kid gloves, sometimes we have a limited vector to challenge them. Vectors meaning like what kind of resource, what thing can we threaten player characters with that they will then have a harsh reaction to, and then act and then react to it if we take it away from them. Dungeons and Dragons has hit points. Very few other things in Dungeons and Dragons do we have a really good vector to challenge our players with, in terms of loss. I mean, yes, you can take their gold, even though in current O5E, gold doesn't really have much purpose other than just having large zeros after it. There's not really much to spend it on. And then you could start going after their magic items, which just sounds like punishing them. So you end up de- funneling back into hit points, take their hit points away. Players get mad. They try to get more hit points, and then we keep that cycle going. We keep that threat of that vector. But if there's something else that the player characters have to get, like for example, beryllium crystals or something to fuel a starship, that means the players have to go out of their way to get it. They might have to wheel and deal, steal, lie, cheat, assassinate to get it. Now that they have it in their possession, now we can threaten them again. People trying to wheel and deal, assassinate, threaten, steal it from them, the player characters, and then the player characters need to use it. Throw it down into the engine, start the engines, get the heck up out of there after they've thrown a couple of grenades and monkey wrenches into other people's cultures, and then they try to leave. And so, yeah, there are many vectors. Like in uh, Legally Blind mentions vampire, you have humanity. You know what? An un One of the unspoken brilliances of the White Wolf gaming system was the balance of various vectors of character resources. And again, like I said, even though we're talking about science fiction, the same thing applies here, right? Where in what White Wolf did was, for example, their very first game, Vampire the Masquerade, you had humanity, and humanity was tracked. And the more you drank blood, or the way you went around getting blood from living things, the greater chance you had, if not permanent chance you had, of losing your humanity. And so by losing your humanity, humanity was a tracked trait that meant that you had less dice to roll, and the less dice you rolled for different things like blending into humanity and appearing normal and hiding amongst the population, the less dice you had, the less you were able to go hunt, so on and so forth. And you had this circular spiral. You want your humanity high, but you need blood. Blood also was another resource to enhance your vampiric abilities. So what do you do? And I love that seesaw effect of having a number of vectors of loss and gain and needing to balance them out. And then of course they transferred that to throughout the rest of the games, because you had willpower, you had blood pool, you had humanity for vampires. In Werewolf there was rage versus gnosis. Um, yep, and then even in the beast would take over when your humanity went low, and then your blood pool dropped to a certain particular point. So the higher your humanity, the less the beast would take over. And so something like that, especially even in science fiction, maybe the crew of a starship has psychic powers or whatever. And they're traveling through time and space to go from planet to planet, but maybe that psychic residue or connection, the higher it is, the harder it is to control. The higher it is, maybe the more powerful you are. To maybe you don't want it low because you want to be able to fight off other beings or creatures or that have come out of wormholes or something. So you want your stat to be high, but if it's lower, maybe you're far more immune to the connections. Maybe most humanity has zero psychic powers and they don't see, the ghosts of the dead coming out of the woodworks, but maybe the player characters see it. But at the same time, maybe it gives them the power to do the classic, these are not the droids you're looking for. And so it might be a double-edged sword. Also, you could have other strange side effects like rapid aging or insanity or um, maybe repeating, what is it, groundhogging, maybe repeating the same thing over and over again in time and space, not being able to get out of a time loop or something, or again, not being able to pilot your starship from system to system because your mental awareness isn't high enough. The same could be done for something technological like an alien code sent to humanity that gives them the power or the technological resources to design or even use fourth and fifth and sixth dimensional math to travel from place to place. Maybe humanity never did it in the first place. Maybe they got it from an alien source or an alien signal. And that signal allows them to do it. But guess what? You have to open up your bandwidth to get the signal. Maybe opening up your bandwidth for that signal is extremely dangerous because other factions might get to you or something. Yeah. Not sure what that refers to there, Lurk. Scotty Fi Resources, Spaceballs, and Locks again. If that is a correct verbal translation, I don't get it. Although I remember the show Spaceballs though. Yeah, she went from suck to blow. Oh, that movie, so irreverent. Would never be able to do it. The comb the desert and the black dudes with the big helmets holding in their afros and stuff. We ain't found shit. Oh man, what a great movie. Anyway, yeah, would never be able to get that off the ground today. But I will say, like, I do have my own sci-fi setting. I don't really talk too much about my own settings on the show at all. But like in my sci-fi setting, there is an alien, well, maybe not so alien code was sent well out past the Oort cloud, possibly from like Proxima or Alpha Centauri or something, and that code was sent to um, Earth, or not Earth, our solar system, because humanity has already expanded past Earth and expanded out to like all the way out to Neptune and Uranus and places like that. Yes, Uranus, and that code opened up. It was like a Pandora's box of technological advancement, and no one specific code did one thing. It was like piecing it together, and so it and the powerful governments and corporations and criminal organizations have been scrambling around to keep people from using it, and even anarchists, leagues of anarchists and stuff, have been trying to use it to advance technology, and that's how uh, various forms of technology have expanded throughout our own solar systems. And I call it lost soul, as in SOL. And it's like humanity has become the aliens to which they've tried to go out into space to find. It's kind of like kind of like inbred. It's an intergalactic, uh, inbred, having sex with your cousin kind of thing. A terrible analogy, but very apt for the setting. Anyway, Cameron says a group of psychic drugs that allow you to do different things, but it's crystalline. You have to snort it, and it makes you stink like sour marbles. Wow, you went really dark there, Cam. You already went to to dropping a lemonade and chocolate in the underwear, sitting in an abandoned house in a double wide somewhere in the mountains or something, right? You already went there. I was thinking more like maybe the crystalline stuff made your nose bleed and scoured your lungs and caused damage to you. At the more the the more often and the more you snorted or got inside of you, the more dangerous it was. uh the idea of like a an alien parasite that adheres to the back of your neck or like crawls into your earlobe, or um eye drops that you put in that feed the eye worms or whatever. And on one hand, it gives you these great powers, but maybe on the other, it gives you great powers or skills or enhancements, but on the other hand, it maybe, again, time, energy, resources, status, maybe it makes you an outcast. Maybe it makes you an untouchable, or someone that can't go to alien habitats, or humanity has dome cities and spin habs and hollowed out asteroids, and they're like, hell no, we're not going to let you in with your parasite sucking on the back of your neck, but we sure will use your capabilities, you piece of you know. uh Lurker says there was a short-lived series, Threshold. Sounds super familiar. Alien race sends a sound that would rewrite human DNA to prepare them for this cosmic storm that, as humanity stands, would have no chance to survive. That is a very common but really cool story element, where a power greater than us is preparing us for a transition, an ascendancy in many ways. And but we don't understand what that change is. And like, there was an old television show called 4400, and I think they're bringing it back. The original 4400, I think, was like 4 seasons, maybe five. And in 4400, 4,400 human beings had been snatched away by aliens. At least this is how it's explained in the very beginning of the first season. So they're snatched away by an unknown entities, and they are all returned to Earth all at the same time, all 4,400 of them. And so they have to reintegrate back into society. Come to find out that they all have these special powers, and so they're running around. And I thought that was a great idea for a story, even like just for role playing of any type. You play one of these 4,400 that was abducted. It seemed like no time passed. You get dropped on Earth. You don't remember what happened. You have special powers. Great. Sounds great for like superheroes or science fiction or anything like that. But one of the one of the characters was talking to the other character and said, maybe aliens brought them back and they have these special powers to help humanity. And then they come to find out that one of these people with special powers was a serial killer and was killing people by using his own brain to possess other people to be a serial killer. So innocent people were being manipulated to kill people by the serial killer. And the agent was like, well, wait a minute. Just because humanity is going to get into this new golden age of ascension, what does that mean for the rest of us? What if they're what if they can see 10,000 years in the future that we're going to have a golden age, but it requires eliminating all of us today, right? And so that ends up becoming a big problem. And I love it. And Threshold reminds me of something like that. A sound to rewrite human DNA. Hells yes. I love it. Let's see. Cam says, ew, worms? What about microscopic caterpillars that make cocoons in your alveoli in your lungs that help people breathe for years until the moths emerge? That I don't know what happens, but it sounds gross. Sound that's bordering on body horror to me, and I love it. Yeah, but why not? Why not have like the thing that enhances you also becomes your downfall? So like, oh, my brain is thinks better and faster or something, but it's also growing larva, in my hippocampus or whatever it's called. I don't know. My medulla oblongata becomes a place for seeds that busts open one day. Or like you said, something in your lungs allows you to breathe for hold your breath or breathe for years, or maybe something, invades your skin that makes it tougher, or maybe even survive great pressure, the great negative pressures of space, vacuum or something. But maybe your skin hardens. Eventually, you won't be able to move. Something goes into your nerve fibers or your muscle fibers. It increases your speed or adrenaline. Maybe something, an alien parasite goes into your adrenal system, making you super fast. It dumps adrenaline into your system, but maybe one day it bursts your heart or something. I don't know. Sounds kind of cool to me. I think. Uh, Lurk talks about Threshold was a well-known cast. Brent Spiner was in it, maybe 2 seasons. Sci-fi used to marathon it. Really, can't recommend it enough. Okay, a lot of times these it's so funny how there are these little nuggets of golden goodness that we could gather out there. Like I thought the show Debris was actually a good idea, but I could see it was going to derail pretty soon. And it ended a little bit on a whimper, but the concept behind it was really cool. Alien debris falls to Earth. These agents go around trying to gather it. Both agents are from uh, rival organizations. One MI6, the other CIA. I was like, okay, X Files ish. All right. Um, a little bit too much on the human nature part of it rather than the scientific part of it, but I think they tried to get a good balance. And so I wonder if this Threshold show is on a streaming service somewhere, like dumped on a streaming service and just held in an archive somewhere. You got to find it. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Uh, Deadman mentions the movie Fallen. Okay, a host entity inhabiting people and jumping from person to person, killing people as it goes along. Yeah, I remember the song. Time is on my side. Yes, it is. Now, okay, Dead Man, and I'm being really sarcastic with this one. I understand the demon Azazel was jumping from person to person, murdering people and stuff, and it was a Denzel movie filmed in Philly. Couple of great scenes in Philly that I've been to plenty of times just living there. And you're like, oh, that's where I used to live, right? Anyway, uh, yeah, the movie Fallen, great movie, but what did Azazel sing before the song Time is on My Side came out? Because there had to be another song because that demon could not stop humming it all the time. Maybe it felt a little like it was very strange, but I love the idea of and maybe a parasitic species is or I'm going to say a blend between symbiotic and a parasitic alien species allows humanity to ascend but also is extremely invasive. Could you imagine? Could you imagine a PC gets like great powers from this symbiotic alien species that invades their body, and then the alien species is like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm going to find somebody else." And it's like, "No, you're taking all my secrets and everything away from me." And then a rival is like, "Yeah, I know everything about you. I know you. I know you eat Cheetos and your tidy whities watching Netflix. I know that. I see you. I see you right there." Cameron's like a tardigrade species, ooh, that feed on bad cholesterol inside of hearts and whose fecal matter balances blood acidity. I like tardigrades; they look cute, even though what are they like? Um, uh, giant. I mean, excuse me. They look like something that should be giant sized, but these tiny little animalistic looking things. These are eating bad cholesterol. So I don't know. That actually sounds kind of cool. Mm-mm-mm. Uh-oh. Seriously, Lurker, you just gonna dangle it? You just gonna do that? You're just gonna be like, uh-huh. It can be found, whistles innocently. Really? Really? I wonder what service it's on. I'm gonna guess Amazon, but there's other streaming services out there for Threshold, yeah. Like I know 4400's on Netflix, and I know there's CW here in the States. CW is coming out with a version of it on the 4400 on CW, a new version of it, but I don't know, whatever. Um, Something else as well when it comes to like rare commodities and things might be, like I said before, like a the energy to get what you want might be valuable skill levels. Okay, let's come a little bit. Let's come back a little bit to modern day. Uh, 007, Born Identity, Mission Impossible. How many times have there been nuclear codes, stolen and you got to get them back because there's nuclear codes. And what happens? It's usually not plug and play. Usually there's a scientist or multiple scientists that know how to create, make, and build nuclear devices. And then what else do you have to have? Well, you have to have the enriched uranium or whatever nuclear fissionable or fissible material, whatever it's called. You know what I'm talking about. And so you have to have that material. It's probably held in some kind of non-radiation exposing device or something. Usually cut something brushed aluminum on the stainless steel on the outside, locked around one of those plastic cases with a handcuff attached to somebody's wrist or something like that, right? So you have that, and then of course somebody's got to have the little Geiger counter to detect whether there is radiation, which always bothered me. I'm like, okay, criminals in dark alley exchanging radioactive materials, none of you are protected, yet you're running a radioactive device over some anyway. um but that being said, because all of them are probably dead within the next year or two, you also have to have you have the material, the scientists, you have to have the actual nuclear device itself that will turn it into a dirty bomb or something like that. So you have to have that as well. And then you have all the machinations of all the factions trying to get it and uh steal it. And then there's usually maybe some kind of like in, interwebs hacking God's eye chip that's allowed to, program that somebody has to go get a timer to and can download or whatever. um Okay, so you said it was on Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi is Universal or Viacom, so I'd start with Hulu or Peacock. Ooh, Hulu still has Disney hasn't gotten to the point of kicking everything else off of its service because Disney now owns Hulu, or at least owns the majority shares. Because I think after they purchased Fox, which I think Fox uh, FX big thing anyway, the big whole corporate thing. So okay, I'll check that out. I'll check that out. Um, uh, Marin, hey, what's going on here? Mike Marin says, sometimes the container is much more interesting than the MacGuffin. Yeah, yeah. Side note, there's actually movies out there where you never actually see what the MacGuffin is because the MacGuffin is a pure MacGuffin. Um, Two of them come to mind. One is a movie called Ronin about spies. There is a suitcase literally that they open up, and when the actors open up the suitcase, a golden light spills across their face, and they close it up, and you never see what's on the inside of it. There's a Mission Impossible movie, number 4, that has the rabbit's foot, and they never tell you what the rabbit's foot is. The rabbit's foot is something in a thing that they're trying to get that has a thing. Man. Anyway, I didn't read the whole thing. Yeah, in the film Ronin, the briefcase itself has several major plot points. The contents are never revealed. Mike's like, yeah, I think we may be on the same wavelength. I didn't even read the whole thing. Ooh, they did the same thing in Pulp Fiction too. Yep. Lurk did the same thing in Pulp Fiction. Yeah, that movie Ronin is great. That is great. Here's a okay. I'm going to challenge you guys on this, and I'm sure this would probably bother a ton of people in our community, in the tabletop role playing community. But follow me on this. Imagine a role playing game called MacGuffin. That's the name of it, and there is a thing in the game that everybody wants and needs. And it is never explained what it is and what it's used for, but literally every faction, government, corporation, wizards, psychics, mercenaries, common folk want to get it because it does it's so useful to society that people can't do without it, but that you never explain what it is. Like there'll be commercials and it's like MacGuffin, you know, is your cholesterol high? Are you having financial stresses? Do you want to live longer? Get MacGuffin. And it's like, well, what is it? And then and below you get the little the fast speaking legalese at the bottom, like, like what? I don't know. What is MacGuffin? It is what it is, and use a player character need to get it. So what does it do for my character? You don't know. It just makes you better. Why? I don't know. Mm-mm-mm. Cameron says mushrooms whose spores are a delicacy in a space station and on an asteroid big enough for its own atmosphere, okay, which contains just enough nitrogen to grow forests of mushrooms. See, you're reminding that reminds me of something like um, butt weasel coffee. There are these tree monkeys, these tree weasels, and coffee beans are harvested from their fecal matter, made into this extremely expensive coffee for no damn reason. Whatever. Anyway, rich folks, I swear. Snails, caviar, Blue Mountain butt weasel coffee, whatever. Um, anyway, it's this Cam, you're reminding me of something like here's something that's in this location that only grows here, can only be found here, can only be harvested here, much like in the Dune with the spices only on Dune. And in order to get it, you have to walk on eggshells. You know, Mm-mm-mm. Is it civet coffee? That's it. Civet coffee. Yeah, I think it's better described as butt weasel coffee. Mm-mm-mm. And they've tried to get that coffee made outside of their natural habitat, and they just haven't been able to replicate it. They can't replicate the stomach acids, the digestive process. They can't replicate the civets won't eat the coffee beans outside of their natural habitat, probably through stresses, of course. Put me in a cage, I ain't eating that shit. You know what I mean? So yeah. And Lurker says in Pathfinder, it was rumored to be Marcellus Soul, like Marcellus Wallace. Marcellus Wallace. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with giving somebody a foot rub. Anyway, oh man, lurks like MacGuffin so sounds like a Steve Jackson Games product. It sure does. Here are your stats to play in MacGuffin. What does it do? I don't know. Watch the one of those QVC at home channels at 2 o'clock in the morning. Exactly. Amazon has it for $50 a pound. Exactly. MacGuffin delivered to you within days. Open it. Make sure you store it in a dry, safe place. Also, you might want to plug it in, and you're just like, "What? What do you mean?" Pulp Fiction. Oh, Pulp Fictions. I apologize. But Weasel Coffee from as good as it gets. Drink it up. Could you imagine a commercial about that? And you see like the little tree civets, like the butt weasels literally depositing another coffee bean into the person's cup while they're sitting on the deck of their expansive house watching the sunrise and going like and with a Afghan wrapped around them like butt weasel coffee. Plop plop. Ching. Somebody should really do that. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. Pulp Fiction. It was rumored to be Marcellus's soul. Marcellus Wallace. Yeah. Yeah. Pulp Fiction was. It was supposed to be. Yeah. Hey, what's going on there? MTM. What's up there, dude? Mm-mm-mm. MacGuffin's on my is on my shelf next to Tune. I remember Tune. Don't get it wrong. I remember that role playing game. I still have my original uh Teenagers from Outer Space, TOF TOFS from our Talsorian games. I can't remember. I can't believe I remember that. It even had 2 six-sided dice for the game, and they were so small, they were like, 2 little boogers. They were so tiny. I don't know how they got those dice made and inserted in that game, but it still is in there. Marin is like, you can guarantee if you never show the MacGuffin, it'll be the first and only thing the players ask about. That's my point. Like, if you had, hell, you could have a movie or TV show or a book series or role playing game, MacGuffin. You never know what it is, but everybody's after it. And and each episode, the process by which you use the MacGuffin keeps changing, but no one ever explains why. Like in one episode, there are scientists that have been analyzing and using MacGuffin to power a machine, but then the next episode, everyone's like, um, alarm klaxons are going off because MacGuffin might be spreading throughout the population and people are breathing it in, and it might poison the population because the MacGuffin's gotten out. And then like a third episode, small kids are like looking in the corners and they're like, "Hi, MacGuffin," and they're like, "I I see dead MacGuffin," or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it would just be really weird and fun. I know it's completely ridiculous, but it's actually giving me a. It's actually fueling my imagination there a little bit. I'm sure. I'm sure yourself, Malika. I'm sure you're just like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But you get it, dude. Yeah, we're technically what we're talking about. If I can turn the MacGuffin steering wheel back onto track, is we're talking about science fiction and spice melange and rare commodities in science fiction and especially tabletop gaming. Like, spice was used as an allegory for oil in the Middle East during the 60s, 70s, 80s, the the heyday of OPEC, and how these uh, um, oil barons and uh, people became ultra rich. These multi billionaires in the Middle Eastern countries, and they inserted these puppet dictators to get the oil out and things like that. And it was very much an allegory for that process of how once, I'm not going to use the offensive word, but saying n words were completely ignored during a huge period of time. Now had the most valuable commodity in the world, and how did the richest countries in the world go extract it from people who are like, wait a minute, you disrespected us our whole lives. Now you want something from us, you piece of yep. Ooh, burn. Legally Blind Lurker says MacGyver, the living MacGuffin. Yeah, yeah. MacGyver, the if I need a superpower to have and solve the situation, I have it. You know what's for a long time, Superman was like that. Superman used to have damn near every superpower he ever needed to solve a situation. For a long time, if you guys don't know, the original Superman didn't have flight or like heat vision or anything. And over time, they gave him X ray vision and mind control and the ability to turn invisible and teleport and shape change and all kinds of powers. Eventually, they narrowed it back down to what we commonly know as Superman. But yeah, for a while there, Superman had every single superpower you could ever imagine. It's crazy. Malika's like, yeah, I remember Teenagers from Outer Space RPG. We had fun playing that game. It it hasn't quite aged too well because there was much like original Dungeons and Dragons, uh had the girdle of sex change, and in Teenagers from Outer Space there was a boy girl gun that would change your gender when you got shot with it, as if it was a as if there was some kind of detrimental effect to having your gender changed, with a bunch of teenagers going giggling around a table like, "Ooh, you're a girl." It's kind of stupid now, but at the time it was pretty fun. So yeah, but it didn't age very well. Okay, let's see. Dead Man says Civic Coffee is called Kopi Iluwakand, Luwakand, and it can be purchased from Amazon, okay, for 3 ounces of coffee beans for $105, or a subscription that gets you 3 ounces of coffee beans every 2 months for $99. If there isn't Kopi, is that Luwak or Iuwak? Iuwak? Kopi Iuwak? I'm butchering pronunciation, but whatever. That's what we do here. Thank you for joining me. Um, yeah, yeah. That sounds like rich people's bullshit to me. Like that just sounds like, oh, I can afford to drink this coffee, so I will. Not a, it's worth the price of admission. Which is why I think next week I think we should talk about grain and grape. Luwak. Kopi Luwak. There he is. Seriously, it's just like caviar, right? Like people were just like, "I caviar is great," and I'm like, "Is it though? But is it really? Are snails great? Are they really that good, or are you just saying that because it's so expensive?" Lurker's like, "There's a detrimental effect. Need a whole new wardrobe." Yeah, some great MacGuffin. Yep, it's detrimental effect. You're going to need to change all your clothes. Why? Because MacGuffin. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, yeah. Well, like it's like 1960s Adam West Batman's utility belt and Kit from Knight Rider were MacGuffins that became outrageous. Sure did. David Hasselhoff. Kit, give me do the, I need the, and Kit's like, sure thing there, Michael. Activate. Woo, woo. And as long as it did the little light back and forth, woo, woo, all of a sudden Kit could like jump, run, sprint, shoot a cable. I'm falling off a cliff. Kit, save me. Here's a cable that we've never seen before. um, I remember the 1960s Batman had the Bat alphabet soup container, and the the Riddler had a puzzle in alphabet soup at a restaurant. Batman pulls out the Tupperware, pours the soup into the Tupperware, gets back to the Batcave, opens it up, and it still spells out the same riddle that the Riddler had before. And I was just like, oh, or remember the movie, the shark repellent that he had on his utility belt? What is that? It's pigeon squab. Oh man, MacGuffins, they're so great. And you know what? Hell, we could talk about MacGuffins, good and bad MacGuffins, till we're blue in the face for like tabletop role playing games, right? Like meaning, sometimes in a book or a TV series or a graphic novel, the MacGuffin of the prince or princess that has been captured, who will change the nation, and our heroes will go after them. Sounds like a great idea, but in play it doesn't really work because you know as well as we know that the player characters only get the chosen one killed. It's just going to happen. Either they're going to kill him, they're going to put the chosen one in harm's way, which there's no other way around it. You're just going to be like, there's no way they're going to survive. They'll be killed, or whatever happens, or the PCs are going to lose the MacGuffin, whether it's like a map or a key or a special device, and don't make the MacGuffin anything that's incendiary or explosive because they're going to set it off, right? Like in nearly every iteration of any spy movie that has a nuclear weapons code in it, it never the weapon never goes off ever. In the television show 24, they actually didn't detonate a nuclear device. But that being said, most spy thriller stuff, they never set it off. Guaranteed a PC has a nuclear, atomic, antimatter device. They're gonna keep it and set it off. Yeah. Cam's like, there's a crate. It's 5 foot by 5 foot by 5 foot. It won't open. There are holes on each side, and the whole crate is shaking. It is locked, and where there would be a keyhole, it reads, Guess what's in the crate? Yeah. And you will win something great. Mm, yeah. What's in it? I don't know. Hey, everybody, a big sticker on the side. Find out tomorrow. Want to find out what's in it today? You'll find out tomorrow. Yeah, like Blurker. Blurker. That's your new avatar name, Blurker. Anyway, Legally Blind. It's like Excalibur MacGuffin, the holy McGruffin, McGrailfin, the holy McGrailfin, Excalibur. I have the power. Oh man. Or the less, other than He-Man, the better, I think, cartoon show that was short-lived was Black Star, where they had the Star Sword and the Power Sword, and his best friend Chameleon and some other guys. He was a Native American astronaut sent off into space that got tumbled through somewhere and whatnot. Yeah. And they kept showing they kept repeating the same scene over and over again where he's flying on the back of a griffin. I can't remember the name of the animal he was riding on, but I think his name was Griffin. It might have been a real griffin too. I can't remember that cartoon. Black Star. A ton of 80s cartoons that were just basically a 22-minute uh commercials for kids to buy cereals and toys and stuff. But man, those were some great days. God, uh, um, um, what's the other favorite one of everyone? Ookla and Conan, not Conan the Barbarian. Oh, damn it, you guys know what it is. Thundar the Barbarian. Wow, woo, I found it. No, you don't. No, you don't. Still have my Black Star figure. Are you serious? No, you don't. No. You definitely, you're gonna have to take a picture of it and post it somewhere. Like join the Discord and put it up there, dude. You got to. You got to. Anyway, I know we've gone off the rails here. Long story short, is that coming up with great MacGuffins, Spice Melange being one of the Spice Melange in Dune isn't the first. It's not the only one, and it may not even be the best one. But Dune encapsulated so many different things about storytelling into one story, from the chosen one story and the kind of real, kind of fake white savior story, which you guys know that I mentioned it before, that it is a white savior story, but it isn't, because the writer literally says that it's fake, but it then becomes real and stuff, which people kind of miss because they're trying to look for their own agenda on that part. I don't think it is. It never bothered me to begin with. And those kind of stories don't bother me. It bothers me that there aren't other stories, I think is the thing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thundar. What is the Cam's like? I'll have a McGoku and a large chicken McTetsu in a 12 piece. Yeah, yeah. End of show. I've got more power than I had last time. Really? Really? Yep. The MacGuffin makes me stronger. Why? Because that's what the story's supposed to say. Yeah. M is like, yeah, the Rabbit's Foot in Mission Impossible 3 brought that up. Hell yeah. The Lost Ark is a MacGuffin. Only revealed at the end, and to this day, we're still like, what was in the Ark? No one ever. Well, somebody actually saw what was in the Ark and paid the price. The virginal female love interest in every Dracula movie, all MacGuffins. Yep. Hell, you listen. The virginal female actually extends all the way to many of Disney's original princesses as well. Sleeping Beauty, and a lot of them were the the innocent females going to solve all the problem MacGuffin. If only we had love, we would solve everything. MacGuffin, right? Yeah, yeah. That's always been the issue with the problem with true white savior stories, because there's a difference between some. I think too many stories are categorized in it. One story is taking a look at a thing through the eyes of an outsider. That's usually the basic story. But the terrible ones are looking at a culture through the eyes of an outsider, going in and fixing all their problems and going, yep, if it wasn't for me, wouldn't have solved the problem. That's the problem. And I think with when it comes to MacGuffins, sometimes there's like a character that's like there a character can be the MacGuffin themselves. It's like no one can solve the problem till I show up and do the thing. And you roll your eyes, you're like, wait a minute, Aquaman. You mean the woman who's actually better than you, who knows more than you, and has actually better powers than you, it can't solve the situation, but we have to find you, Aquaman, first? That's weird. Yeah. Oh man, Dragon Ball Z. The Dragon Balls were a multi-party McDuffie with a password, an entire dragon multi-part MacGuffin. Yeah, I know. You meant MacGuffin, but yeah, the whole Dragon Balls themselves were a multi-part storyline MacGuffin thing. Yeah, and listen, to be honest, the MacGuffin itself, supposedly, the definition of it is if you were to change what it is, it would not affect how the story operates. So it is true we're picking with MacGuffins, air quotes, that if you were to change the MacGuffin, the story would change. But when you're talking about the Ronin, the movie, running up Pulp Fiction, it's a thing in a suitcase that everybody wants, and it never does a thing. And if you change the suitcase to, I don't know, a sack full of diamonds, a computer code, a wallet, a photograph, a top secret document, it wouldn't change the story very much. Everybody wants it. Everyone sees it that wants it. It gets passed around and whatever. Now, there are MacGuffins that are like, hey, we need to stop a nuclear launch. We need to get the code into the machine to stop the nuclear launch. Well, you could change that into the MacGuffin could be a person that has to reprogram the missile launch. You could change that into um, a double set of keys that need to be turned at the exact same time to stop the passcode or whatever. It could be any number. You could change the shape of it. It's still kind of so maybe I'm ruining my own description of it, but you get the point. A real MacGuffin doesn't really even matter. You just change it, and everybody wants it for some purpose. And the desire for that purpose. Hell, we've seen romantic comedies that have tons of MacGuffins in it, where there's one or more MacGuffins. Like, okay, the MacGuffin could be not an object, but it could be a time and place. Um, our our distraught hero of our story doesn't want their betrothed, the person that they're in love with, to get married. And so he, her, them travels across the nation to get to the place before the week ends. MacGuffin, right? It's a time and place. And then, of course, hilarity ensues. Everyone shows up on at the exact same date, time and place. All the lies are exposed. We have a big fun laugh. Music plays, and there's a dance scene, right, to that song. Yeah, Malika's like Doc Savage. Ooh, Ray. Okay, Ray, a MacGuffin. Okay, Sherlock Holmes. Mutants. MacGuffins. A lot of MacGuffinable mutants. H.G. Wells' Time Machine. All MacGuffins. Yeah, to tell a story. The time machine's unimportant. It's the we need to get the character to a place to tell the story. The time machine just happens to be a side effect of it. Yep, because technically that story could have been told with a wormhole or a dream sequence, or the main character gets high and imagines something, right? Yeah, yeah. Sherlock Holmes has a ton of MacGuffin stories. Um, Moriarty might be a living MacGuffin, or Machiavelli, the Machiavelli character. Sorry, could be a living MacGuffin. The person that Sherlock Holmes could never. The person smarter than Sherlock Holmes, right? You need that one person, so that one person always has a smarter idea than Sherlock Holmes, right? Yep, absolutely. Well, hell, if you honestly, if you think about it, Star Wars and the Force. Sorry, the Force is. Hate to burst people's. Yeah, Moriarty. Yeah, you got it. You got it when I got it. I'm sure you. I guarantee you were typing that in before I put it in there. Yeah. Yeah. Moriarty might probably be a living MacGuffin. Literally the person smarter than everybody else. Why? Because he is. It's the proverbial end of the story. I've always outsmarted you, heroes. Kind of thing. Yeah. 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 Cameron says, I'd love an H.G. Wells story and a dropping acid and going to a dog park. What? An H. I'm gonna write a story. Drop acid. Everyone's like, wait a minute. What story is this? When you talked about time travel and I don't know, shape changing aliens and things, and now you're talking about going to a dog park? That's really weird. Yeah, I know because listen, Marin, there's a time difference by the time you type something in before I get it, so I get it. But anyway, guys, we've come to the end. Hell, we should have just made this a MacGuffin story, which Spice Melange is a MacGuffin story, which kind of tells us a little bit about trying to come up with really good MacGuffins versus bad ones in various stories, giving breaking MacGuffins up into different pieces. What was the movie? Tenet, the time shifting movie that I actually liked. Tenet, I liked the movie. I know it gave people problems and the sound editing was pretty horrible, but um, Tenet had the algorithm, and you're like, oh, it's in my mind. I'm going, oh, the algorithm. That means it's a math problem, and it was actually a bunch of heavy metal pieces that were linked together, and they never explained how they were used. It was literally a time travel MacGuffin. Yep. Um, M's okay. Now you're going off the rails here, M. Um, Malika's like Mayberry. Okay, the town in Footloose, Springfield and the Simpsons, and the Infinity Stones and the anti-life equation, all MacGuffins. Yeah, yeah. Infinity Stones, anti-life equation. Yeah. Small towns where things happen, and the small town always has to have the thing happen in a small town. Yeah, yeah. How about the washed out colored murder mystery stories where the innocent person in town is murdered outside of town and all the people in the town are suspects? Usually these are like more dramatic serious stories rather than like comedic ones, but it's usually innocent person gets murdered, out detectives from outside of town come into town. Maybe there's at least one individual who has a relationship with the people in town, like the show Mayor of Easttown, which is really good. Don't get me wrong, it was very good. But you had a murder, and of course, everyone in town is a suspect, and you have to figure it out. And it's like, guess what? The small town is the MacGuffin. The small town is like no one leaves it. Everybody knows each other. It's almost inbred. Everyone's got all their dark histories. Every single individual you question lies, so you got to get past that. Yep. Yeah. The game Clue. Yep. Professor Plum did it in a library with the candlestick. Yeah, but the Infinity Stones, it's like people trying to explain. Look, listen. Remember back in the day, anybody remember, hey, back in my day, remember when Infinity Stone movies, the both of them, Endgame and Infinity War came out, and everyone was trying to describe what the stones could and could not do. And it's like, yeah, you're no, yes, but no. Don't, yeah, don't even do it. The town of Footloose was called Beaumont. Beaumont? Was it Beaumont? I know there were two different versions of Footloose. One was dancing was illegal, and in the updated one, it was more like socially unacceptable. Cam says Space Jam. MacGuffin is a basketball game. Airbud living MacGuffin that could play basketball. Flubber living MacGuffin that can be a basketball. Flubber. Wow, you guys are really reaching. Oh shoot. No, 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 no. Would you consider Neo himself a MacGuffin? Yeah, wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're hitting upon something there. Because ultimately, he this is a weird thing to say. Really, Neo's only purpose in all the movies was to restart the Matrix, which could have happened in the very first movie, but it didn't. So, yeah, he was the glitch in the Matrix to reboot the Matrix to get it to start over again. He was the he's the mechanism by which you defragment the hard drive with a personality. Although as the movies went on, he kind of didn't have any personality anymore. So yeah. Now listen, I'm like the rest of you guys, and I'm going to assume this because that's what I do. The trailer for Matrix Four is sweet because the Neo character really runs around doing stuff, but ultimately at the very end gives up and just reboots the Matrix, right? And it's like, and there's nothing wrong with telling that story. The hero, because there's lots of stories where the hero has to make a decision we all know the hero has to make, and the struggle is telling the story of struggling with the choice to make that choice rather than the choice itself. Um, we've seen this with a lot of struggle stories, people that have like internal struggles, addictions, or coming to terms with the loss of a loved one, or something like that. Like we know what happened at the beginning and we know what decision is going to be at the end. We just live through the middle of it. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. But yes, it is. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. You, you know what, Dead Man? Strangely enough, your comment did not make it through. That is really weird. It didn't come through. I mean, I see it, and I see it to the right of the screen, but I can't highlight it. That's really weird. Mm-mm. That is odd. Beaumont, Georgia. All right. Anyway, guys, we could go down the MacGuffin rabbit hole, and I think it would be kind of cute to have an RPG based on a MacGuffin that's out there that the PCs need to go after, and then each mission, I mean, it could be similar to Monster of the Week, where because there's an RPG called Monster of the Week where you go after the MacGuffin, and the process by which you go after it changes every time you engage in a game. I think that would be kind of cute. But I know we went off anybody who's here for Future Friday is like, what did I sign up for? So anyway, guys, I got to get out of here. You guys have a great one. I know the stream is going, what is it, an hour, almost an hour, 20 minutes or something like that. So guys, have a great day. Please, if I may, a call to action. Please, like, share, subscribe. I see your comment there, Cam. Would the rabbit hole be a MacGuffin in Alice in Wonderland to tell the story? Yeah, because any it was designed so that anything could happen, right? Peace, M. Please, Malika, and everybody else out there. Please like, share, subscribe, follow, comment, spread the word. Maybe you have enemies people who you really don't like. Tell them about the channel. 5 out of 4 doctors say that watching this show um, relieves up to 10% less anal leakage. None of this has been proven by the FDC, FCC, or anybody. But believe you me, if you measure your anal leakage, it's probably less now than it started at the beginning of the show. Send me pics. Anyway, guys, have a great one. I will see you.